We begin this story with a sense that Port Charles is holding its breath, as if the city itself knows that the next 2 weeks will not be gentle. We tell this as witnesses who are also participants, because in General Hospital, no one truly stands outside the storm. We watch events unfold. We connect the silences, and we imagine what may come next based on the fragile truths already in motion. Valentin is the first thread we follow, because his decision to move to a new hiding place feels less like escape and more like fate tightening its grip. We know Valentin well enough to understand that he never runs without a plan. Yet this time the plan feels rushed, reactive, and shaped by fear rather than control. His relocation suggests that the walls are closing in, and that the enemies circling him are closer than he wants to admit. We sense that this new hideout is meant to be temporary, a place to regroup, but it is likely already compromised before he even settles in. Ava's involvement changes everything. We see Ava not as a passive observer, but as a catalyst. When she catches Valentin, it is not just an accidental encounter. Ava has always had a sharp instinct for leverage, and this moment hands her power whether she asks for it or not. We believe that Ava will recognize the value of what she has seen, and the danger Valentin represents if exposed. Her knowledge becomes a weapon, and the question is not whether she will use it, but how and when. The possibility that Ava could inform Sidwell about Valentin hiding in his castle feels dangerously real. Ava understands Sidwell's temperament and his territorial nature. Telling him that Valentin may have broken into his stronghold is not a small accusation. It is an invitation to violence. We imagine Ava weighing her options, perhaps telling herself she is protecting her own interests or even just satisfying a sense of justice. But intentions matter less than outcomes here. Once Sidwell knows, events will move fast, and no one will be able to slow them down. As Valentin navigates this precarious ground, another revelation waits in the shadows. We think Valentin may discover that Anna is being held captive somewhere within the same estate. This discovery would hit him with brutal force. Anna is not just someone he cares about. She is tied to his conscience, his regrets, and his unfinished business. Finding out she is imprisoned would push Valentin past caution and into recklessness. Yet we doubt that Valentin will be the one to free Anna. That would be too clean, too hopeful for the story unfolding. Instead, we suspect that Sidwell will catch Valentin in the act of intrusion. Sidwell is not a man who tolerates trespassers, especially ones with histories as complicated as Valentin's. Hypothetically, Sidwell may see an opportunity here. By capturing Valentin and locking him in the same room as Anna, Sidwell creates a psychological trap as much as a physical one. We imagine the tension of that shared captivity. Two people bound by history, secrets, and unresolved emotions, forced into close quarters with no control over their fate. In that space, truths could surface that neither of them planned to share. Accusations might fly. Regrets might be spoken aloud. Or worse, silence could settle in, heavy and suffocating. Sidwell would not need to interrogate them directly. The room itself would do the work for him. While this dark confinement plays out, Alexis faces a conflict of a different kind, one that cuts through her sense of self. On the surface, Alexis continues her efforts to prove Willow's innocence. She is methodical, driven, and outwardly confident. But beneath that determination, we sense a fracture forming. Alexis is a woman who believes deeply in justice. Yet justice is rarely simple in Port Charles. The revelation from Kai and Trina changes the moral landscape. Their information suggests that Willow may not be as innocent as she appears, that she could be the assassin who targeted her own husband. This is not a rumor that can be dismissed easily. It is specific, personal, and devastating. Alexis now stands at a crossroads where every choice has consequences she cannot fully control. We believe Alexis may choose silence, at least for now. Not because she is cruel, but because she is torn. Revealing Kai and Trina's information could destroy lives, including Willow's, and possibly destabilize cases already in motion. Keeping quiet, however, means living with the knowledge that she might be shielding someone capable of murder. That burden would weigh heavily on Alexis, and we expect it to haunt her every step. Willow, meanwhile, seems to sense the shift. Fear begins to define her behavior. She is no longer just defensive, but visibly shaken, as if she knows that someone knows too much. We notice how her attempts at silence feel desperate rather than strategic. It makes us wonder if Alexis has said something to her, perhaps indirectly, perhaps unintentionally. A warning disguised as advice. A look held for too long. A pause where reassurance should have been. Still, we admit that this is speculation. It is possible that Willow's fear comes from within, from memories she has buried and truths she has avoided. General Hospital has a way of letting guilt surface without a single word being spoken. We may be wrong about Alexis' role in Willow's fear, and the reality could be far more complex than we imagine. Drew enters this story at a moment when memory becomes both a threat and a key. His desire to travel with Willow feels like an attempt to escape the weight pressing down on both of them. Distance, he hopes, might bring clarity or at least relief. But memory does not respect geography. It arrives when it wants, uninvited and unstoppable. We suspect that a fragment of Drew's memory will resurface, sharp and undeniable. He may recall seeing Willow at the moment he was shot, a moment when consciousness flickered but did not fully fade. That recollection, if it solidifies, would change everything. It would place Willow at the center of a violent act she claims no involvement in. This memory would not come gently. It would likely strike Drew with confusion first, then doubt, then a growing sense of dread. We imagine him questioning himself, replaying the scene in his mind, wondering whether trauma has distorted the image. But the more he tries to dismiss it, the clearer it becomes. And once that clarity sets in, there is no turning back. As these revelations ripple outward, Jason finds himself drawn into another dangerous storyline through Britt. Britt's decision to trust Jason is not made lightly. She has learned through hard experience that trust often leads to pain. It's something about Jason's steadiness, his quiet loyalty, convinces her to speak. She tells him about Marco, about the feeling of being watched, followed, evaluated. Marco's attention is not clumsy or obvious. It is calculated, professional, and unsettling. Britt senses that she is being used as a means to an end, though she may not yet understand what that end is. Jason's reaction is likely to be immediate and protective. We know Jason's instincts. He does not hesitate when someone he cares about is threatened. The idea that he might confront Marco, issue a warning, or even make a threat feels entirely in character. Yet this path is dangerous, because Marco is not acting alone. Sidwell's shadow looms large here. As Marco's father, Sidwell may view any interference as an attack on his family. Protecting his son could justify extreme measures in his mind. A confrontation between Sidwell and Jason would not be a simple power struggle. It would be a collision of two men who operate by their own codes, both willing to cross lines others fear. While these high-stakes conflicts unfold, Michael faces a quieter but equally devastating battle. He stands accused of a crime he did not commit, trapped in a system that moves slowly and cares little for personal truth. Michael's frustration grows as he tries to prove his innocence, only to encounter delays, skepticism, and procedural barriers. We believe Michael's road to justice will be long. Evidence does not surface when it is needed most. Witnesses hesitate. Alibis fall apart under scrutiny. Michael's faith in the system may erode, replaced by anger and determination. Yet that determination alone will not be enough. He will need allies, and time, and perhaps a sacrifice he is not yet prepared to make. In contrast, Cody's storyline introduces emotional risk rather than legal peril. His developing relationship with Molly feels genuine, built on shared vulnerability and cautious hope. We see moments where Molly allows herself to believe that happiness might be possible again. Cody, for his part, seems earnest, even tender. But Cody has a history of mistakes, and habits are hard to break. We fear that he may make a misstep, perhaps out of insecurity or fear of commitment. That mistake does not need to be dramatic to be damaging. A lie, a lapse in judgment, or a moment of selfishness could reopen wounds Molly has worked hard to close. When that happens, Christina will likely step in. She has always been Molly's emotional anchor, the one who knows how to offer comfort without judgment. We imagine Christina encouraging Molly to feel her pain rather than suppress it, to learn from the hurt rather than retreat into it. Their bond will be tested, but also reaffirmed through this shared moment of vulnerability. Finally, Brennan's involvement adds another layer of moral ambiguity. By pressuring Britt to provide information about Sidwell, Brennan places her in an impossible position. Telling the truth could endanger her. Lying could escalate the situation beyond her control. We suspect Britt may choose deception, offering false information as a way to protect herself and those she cares about. But lies have a way of unraveling. If Brennan senses deception, consequences will follow. Britt's choice, whether truthful or not, will shape her future in ways she cannot yet foresee. We feel the tension in her hesitation, the weight of every word she considers saying or withholding. As we reach the end of this chapter, we see how these storylines intertwine, each feeding into the next. Valentin's capture, Anna's imprisonment, Alexa's silence, Willow's fear, Drew's memory, Jason's confrontation, Michael's struggle, Cody's mistake, and Britt's gamble all form a single volatile network. We close with the understanding that nothing in Port Charles happens in isolation. Every choice echoes. Every secret demands a price. And as the next 2 weeks unfold, we brace ourselves for truths that will surface, alliances that will fracture, and consequences that will reshape lives. Possibly some characters will find redemption. Likely others will face ruin. And hypothetically, the greatest danger will come not from what is revealed, but from what remains hidden just a little longer.